To understand Hong Kong nowadays, we need to scrutinize it from all angles: legal development, legal protection of assets, economic freedom, human rights conditions, job prospects, just to name a few. From a pure business perspective, Hong Kong has lost its autonomy and competitive edge. With the imposition of the national security law in the second half of 2020, the city's uniqueness is gone. It is now just indistinguishable from other big cities in China. With the national security law in place, Hong Kong has quickly adapted under the direct pressure from China. The executives of the Hong Kong government have since been misrepresenting it and abusing the power entitled by the law so as to disintegrate the credibility of the old Hong Kong system. On a serious note, the Hong Kong judicial process has also been undermined and compromised with the imposition of the national security law. It is just disturbing and concerning only to know that close to 100 Hong Kongers, including students, a medical doctor, lawyers, radio broadcasters, politicians, and a media tycoon, have now been charged under the national security law. We are going to go through a painful trial process in the coming months, or possibly years, before a verdict is given. In the meantime, the pro-democracy activists are being locked up in jail, as Beijing claims that these Hong Kong heroes are security threats to Communist Hong Kong and Communist China. And on a more macro level, the Heritage Foundation from the US recently dropped Hong Kong and Macau from its annual index of economic freedom, citing the lack of autonomy in the two cities. Macau was already subdued when the self-imposed zone de facto national security law years ago under Article 23. As for Hong Kong, it comes as no surprise that the once famed international city is dropped from the index of economic freedom by the Heritage Foundation. Doing businesses in Hong Kong is the same as doing businesses in China, for there is no clear distinction between the two places now in terms of freedom and protection. The one country, two systems model just exists in name only. The democratic leaders that are now locked up under the national security law are highly regarded and respected. They come from all age groups, and now all of them are resigned to their fate and subject to unjust lengthy prison terms. The crime they allegedly committed, subversion of state power, is purely political accusation, and their rights as citizens are forcibly removed. If this is the CCP's model of assimilation of Hong Kong into the so-called Greater Bay Area, then Hong Kongers are in big trouble. And on the judicial level, the Hong Kong court that used to be perceived as independent and impartial are now questionable. For any cases related to national security, alleged violators will have his rights denied before trial. We all witnessed the harsh treatment and mental torture of the 47 activists who went through 4 days of marathon trials. The outcome is also predictable. In this regard, even though the rule of law is perceived as intact on the outside, the Hong Kong court operates like a kangaroo court. All the alleged NSL violators have been given a death sentence already. If I were part of the inner circle and rank high enough to have influence on appointing the next Hong Kong chief executive, I would definitely recommend Jimmy Lai for the job to help rebuild the city and put all nonsense behind. Jailing those who love democracy and freedom won't solve the problem, and Hong Kong will remain in darkness if people living in it don't trust the system anymore. Jimmy Lai has a long track record of connecting to the people of Hong Kong. So here we go if Beijing is genuinely keen enough to think out of the box and take action. Last but not least, veteran human rights lawyer Baroness Helena Kennedy, Queen's Counsel, urges common law countries to ban their lawyers from taking up cases in Hong Kong, citing concerns on the city's rule of law under the national security law. Speaking in an online forum entitled Hong Kong Democracy and Human Rights, Protecting Fundamental Freedoms and Upholding International Standards, Kennedy, director of the International Bar Association's Human Rights Institute, hit out at China's violation of human rights and growing influence in Hong Kong's judiciary. The rule of law is simply not present in China, Kennedy slammed. Yes, they say they have got the rule of law, but what they mean by saying is rule by law. The rulers decide what the rules are, and people are just expected to abide by them. The Hong Kong judicial system is already compromised and severely interfered by the Beijing government. So help us God.